Donald Trump just came out against a ballot measure in his home state of Florida that would expand access to abortion. Now, even though he said something different the other day, but let's just play. Here's how he's tried to explain his decision.
Well, I think the 6 week is too short. It has to be more time, and so and I've told them that I want more weeks.
So you'll vote in favor of the amendment?
I'm voting that I am going to be voting that we need more than 6 weeks.
That's not the clip. So that is what he told our NBC's Dasha Burns. And then just yesterday, he told another news outlet that he would actually be voting against the ballot measure. So he tells Dasha Burns that he thinks 6 weeks is too short, i.e. essentially saying he's going to vote for the measure. And then after backlash, he tells another news outlet that actually, I'm voting for the amendment. I'm voting against the amendment. So this also comes after Trump claimed to NBC News in that same interview with Dasha Burns that he wanted to make government or the insurance companies pay for IVF treatments, a suggestion he seems to have made up on the spot and clearly has no intention of ever following through with. Joining us now is Democratic Senator Elizabeth Warren of Massachusetts.
Welcome, Senator. It's good to have you on this morning. So the Vice President Harris said something, I think, probably one of the most important things that have been said in this campaign so far during the Democratic convention, and that is Donald Trump is an unserious person. Mm-hmm. And the fact that he's such an unserious person on such a serious issue befuddles me in terms of the reactions that people have. And I wanted to get your thoughts as you listen to Donald Trump on Thursday in Michigan talk about IVF.
I was always for IVF right from the beginning. As soon as we heard about it, it's fertilization and it's helping women and men and families. We are going to be, under the Trump administration, we are going to be paying for that treatment. So we are paying for that treatment.
All Americans who want it?
For all Americans that get it, all Americans that need it. So we're going to be paying for that treatment, or we're going to be mandating that the insurance company pay.
So either the government will pay for it or the insurance companies will cover it?
Under a mandate, yes.
Senator, you can't say this, but I will. Donald Trump's just talking out of his behind on this issue because he knows he's getting his behind whipped on this issue. So now he's tacking to a position that he thinks is going to be helpful on IVF. He got caught again on the 6 weeks ban in his home state of Florida, and now he's against something that we know he's for. Let me just set the record again. Donald Trump has always been pro-choice Republicans, all right? Stop pretending. Senator, how do you see this narrative now shifting or reshifting in this debate as Donald Trump is trying to take a new position to claim he's now supporting women in their bodily rights and choices?
So Donald Trump is dithering. And he's dithering because he is shocked to discover that we can actually hear him when he talks to other people.
I'm sorry.
No, Senator, we're sorry to laugh, but you are correct.
But that's so true.
So when he thinks he's talking to his radical base, he says, how radical do you need for me to be? And Donald Trump will go there and go further. But when he's talking to the overwhelming majority of Americans who very much oppose that radical approach to abortion and IVF, he tries to change his tune and then is shocked when each side now is starting to call him out on that. And I think that this is what the vice president meant by not a serious man. There's no principle here for him other than, does it help Donald Trump? That is his single guiding principle. And American women are just flat calling him out on that and saying, we are not going to trust Donald Trump. He wants to turn around and say he's going to support IVF. Are you kidding me? He also supports, and it's also there in his platform, that IVF will effectively be banned all across the United States. Sorry, Donald, can't have it both ways.
You know, Senator, to your point, it even feels as though that his own running mate, J.D. Vance, needed to clean up what Donald Trump said on IVF the next morning. Here's what he had to say to CNN the next morning about Donald Trump's proposal on paying for IVF?
All details get worked out in the legislative process, and we're not in the legislative process because we haven't won yet. But I think that President Trump, again, just believes that we want women to have access to these fertility treatments. We're not going to force anybody to do something that is against their conscience, but we also want to make this fertility stuff available to as many people as possible.
It seems as though they want to have it many ways at one time, and this people, they're on the record with not just various other statements, but we have seen what Donald Trump and, frankly, J.D. Vance have done.
Mm-hmm. You know, on this one in particular, let's be clear. The radical Republicans are pushing a fetal personhood bill. And it is now a majority of Republicans in the House of Representatives, including the Speaker of the House. And the consequence of that bill would shut down IVF everywhere in America. Red states, blue states, purple states makes no difference, because any efforts at IVF, the way IVF is done, would, according to the radical Republicans, result in murder. So there are no clinics, there are no doctors, there's no one who's going to help a family that needs IVF in order to expand their families. So that's where they are. They're on record with this. It's also in the Republican platform, and it is entirely consistent with the radical views on abortion. Remember, the Democrats in the Senate put forward a bill that said, you know, why don't we just end this controversy? And at least here in the Senate, we'll put a bill out, we'll vote on it, that just says we're going to protect access to IVF all across the country. Just that, nothing more. How did J.D. Vance vote on that? No. He voted against it. And 4 weeks later, Donald Trump picked J.D. Vance to be his running mate. So these guys don't get to stand up and say with any credibility, oh, yeah, we really want to help families have access to IVF, except for the fact that we want to ban it nationally, and we will not support any laws to protect it.
Senator, I'm going to broaden the lens out a little bit wider and talk about these issues, IVF, abortion, choices that are made by women and in many cases by families. And sticking with J.D. Vance because he offers so many targets to go after. In his race for the U.S. Senate in 2021, he was at the Center for Christian Value Leadership Forum attacking Randi Weingartner, who is the head of the American Federation of Teachers. She is a married lesbian and has what she calls a mother. She's a mother by marriage to 2 daughters. This is how Vance talked about her family, about Weingartner's family, because that's the context in which this issue was brought up. Let's take a listen.
So many of the leaders of the left, and I hate to be so personal about this, but they're people without kids trying to brainwash the minds of our children. And that really disorients me, and it really disturbs me. Randi Weingarten, who's the head of the most powerful teachers union in the country, she doesn't have a single child. If she wants to brainwash and destroy the minds of children, she should have some of her own and leave ours the hell alone.
So beyond the specific nature of the issue, right, there is this idea about women and families that is, I mean, to say arcane and more like a troglodyte is being kind. How do we contextualize this in this campaign, this issue around families, since they want to talk about IVF? Families come in all types, all shapes, all forms and sizes. And you know, Ms. Weingarten's family is just one example. How would you approach this part of the conversation?
So I think that the clip you picked is another one that just shows we are talking a lot about IVF right now, but ultimately what J.D. Vance and Donald Trump, who picked him, are all about is there is one certain role for women And they're supposed to stay within that narrow confine. And Donald Trump starts it. Remember, this is a man who has been not just accused of assaulting women. A court actually found that he had. And remember his defense. He could not have assaulted that woman because she wasn't his type. That tells you how Donald Trump looks at women and has for a very long time. J.D. Vance comes along and says, no, there's only one kind of family out there. And here's what that family looks like. And all other families, to J.D. Vance, as you saw, are just non-existent. They're not really families. They don't really get the term families. So I think once more, this is about the contrast. This is about what kind of a nation we are and want to be. Donald Trump, J.D. Vance, say, here's what it's going to look like. It's going to be pretty much a men in charge, women stay in the roles that we have set out for them and nothing more. Or we're going to be an America that says we embrace a lot of different kinds of families that are put together in a lot of different kinds of ways, and that people ought to be able to love who they love and build the kind of life they want to build. To me, that is the real difference. And I want to add one more little twist to it that makes this so important in an election season. What role do you think government is supposed to play in this? Donald Trump and J.D. Vance seem to think it's the government who should make the rules about whether or not you can do IVF. It's the government that decides when it is that you have access to an abortion and what it means to practice medicine in a state that says, no, you can only do certain procedures when a woman is near death. It is the government that determines what is a legitimate family. Or are we an America that says, nope, we believe in a lot of freedom for all of us, and that the role of government is to create more opportunity, not to put us into boxes, but to let us grow and develop and build prosperity and build a future that works for all of us. That's the difference.
It is a big difference, Senator. It is indeed. Thank you so much, Senator Elizabeth Warren of Massachusetts.